All right, how's it going, guys? Thank you for tuning in to VR Revelations. Welcome to the channel. It is the year of our Lord 2024, July 30th. And so a Secret Service hearing was just held where, congressmen were essentially interrogating the head of the Secret Service and an FBI agent concerning the assassination attempt that was attempted on Donald Trump's life on July 13th. Now, this was a historical event. Thank God Donald Trump was not assassinated, and I don't say that because I'm a, MAGA supporter, but because I'm a Christian, and we are not to wish death upon anyone. We just have to put our lives in God's hands, and we understand that God is in control of all things. But it was very close. I think everybody that has been paying attention has seen the videos where the bullet, one of the bullets grazed his ear. So really all we know is what we've seen from the videos, right, of the rally there in Pennsylvania. Wherein Donald Trump was given his speech, and this would-be assassin attempted to assassinate him as he was perched up on a roof of what seems to be a nearby warehouse. This is the would-be assassin here, Matthew Crooks, who of course was killed right after taking shots at the former president. I believe he was shot in the head. So we have some interesting, comments here by the head of the U.S. Secret Service and the FBI director. Essentially, like most of these hearings, nothing really comes to light. Most of these people that are being interrogated always say, we can't speak on that matter. There's a current investigation being carried out. And just to give you a brief summary before I jump into the article, and a couple of video clips I want to watch along with you concerning the hearing. This guy here, he's the head of the U.S. Secret Service, and this is the FBI agent. Essentially, this guy said that, he went to the building, he laid down himself where the shooter was, and saw how preposterous it was that, the Secret Servicemen there and women were not able to identify the assassin because it was so easy to see him on the roof, right? And so he's saying that, he's ashamed by the lack of communication and organization, and he's pretty much ashamed that, something so easily, easily preventable happened, right? And so the congressmen are pretty much just as shocked, right? And they pretty much want answers. They want people to get fired. They want heads rolling, essentially, right? But the head of the Secret Service here said that, he's not going to be pressured into persecuting people that were in charge of Donald Trump's security, that they're going to carry out their investigation and that they will fire who needs to be fired. But the congressmen here in this hearing were essentially pressuring him, right? But, I understand this was an assassination attempt, and if they want to thoroughly find out, motives, or, all of the things that went wrong, it takes time to carry out these investigations. Now, the FBI agent here, he makes some small comments as to how the investigation is going and some potential social media posts that were found that might be related to the would-be assassin Matthew Crooks, which I do want to focus on as well. And so, this is a big deal, right? We know that America is essentially on the brink of a civil war, right? Now, there's always been a split between Democrats and Republicans. That's just the way the system is set up, but right now it's literally at a boiling point, right? Things have never been this divided and this heated in U.S. history since probably, literally the Civil War, or what led up to the Civil War. And, both sides are to blame, but I do have to say that, Donald Trump, he changed the political scene. And you have to say it. When he came into the presidency, he had a lot of divisive rhetoric, and so he created a lot of followers for himself because of that. But just the same way that he created a lot of followers, he also created a lot of people that hate him, right? Just as much as he has, his MAGA followers and these people that would literally, die for him and follow him to the end and love him, he also has people that hate him just as much. So even before this assassination attempt was carried out, I've told friends that I wouldn't be surprised if an assassination attempt was carried out, because there is people that hate Donald Trump that much. Now, if you want to get into conspiracy theories, that's fine. I get into them myself. I believe that a lot of the things that have happened throughout the history of the United States have been conspiracies, right? Such as the assassination of John F. Kennedy. We know the government carried that out, so I don't rule that out. But we have to base ourselves on our judgment on the information that we do have right now, and all we have is what the people there at the rally saw in the videos that we can see of this young man literally just walking throughout security, unnoticed or noticed, it seems, by the Secret Service, but they really didn't pay attention to him because, these things are only supposed to happen in third world countries, right? These things don't happen in the United States. Well, they do. There is a history, right? But it hadn't happened for such a long time that people just didn't expect it. And I think even though the Secret Service is supposed to be on the lookout for that, I don't think anybody could have actually, expected something like this. So because something like this hasn't taken place so long, I think they became really laxed in their security measures. And literally, it's one of those situations where everything went wrong, right? Which has given way to a lot of those people that wanted to be some sort of plot by the Democrats or, like the FBI or CIA, right, to assassinate Donald Trump. Such like the Timcast, right, IRL. They're continually pushing, this narrative that this must have been a conspiracy theory because so many things went wrong, but that's not a good argument, right? If you look at other, anything that goes wrong, right? Like let's take, for example, Chernobyl, right? That was a major nuclear catastrophe. And if you look at the events, literally everything went wrong that day, which is what caused the nuclear disaster, right? And this goes for anything, right? Like, let's say your stove blows up. Yes, it blew up because something went wrong, and then something else, and it created the conditions for that to happen. That's usually, that's not evidence of a conspiracy. That's just how accidents come about, or bad things, and that could be the case in this matter. Now, personally, I do think that I think this guy just hated Trump, like a lot of other Americans do that hate Trump, and I wouldn't be surprised if another assassination attempt is carried out on Donald Trump's life. Now, let's go ahead and just take a couple. Let's just take a look at some of the clips from the hearing here. So let's go ahead and jump into it here. And we'll just listen to a couple of things I said. We'll read the article and we'll finish up the video there.
Secret Service and the FBI are critical, but Congress, the victims' families, and the American people deserve transparency and accountability now. I'll now turn to my partner on the Judiciary Committee, Ranking Member Lindsey Graham.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Several of us from the military have a military background. If this happened in the military, a lot of people would be fired. And if a lot of people are not fired, the system failed yet again. Having said that, the people who are brave and jumped on the stage to protect the president need to be applauded. We need to learn what happened, make corrective action, but somebody's got to be fired. Nothing's going to change until somebody loses their job.
All right. Those type of comments are absolutely absurd, right? Like, do you just want heads to roll, or do you actually want to find out what happened, who bears more responsibility, and then fire that person, right? Because they can give you the head rolling, right? They can just fire people, and then what? You're just going to be satisfied there? Of course, it's going to take some time. You just don't want to start firing people that, weren't culpable. The secret agent was told to stand over there, and he did that. You don't want to fire him, right? You want to fire the guy that was in charge of supposedly placing agents on that roof or watching that angle and stuff like that. So there's pressure here. I understand the head of the Secret Service is saying, hey, I'm not going to be pressured into firing people. This is an ongoing investigation. Apparently, Donald Trump has agreed to be interviewed by the FBI, so it takes a while, right?
Thank you.
It's the practice of the Homeland Security and Governmental Affairs Committee to swear in witnesses. So if our two witnesses could please stand and raise your right hand. Do you swear that the testimony you will give before this committee will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So help you God. Thank you. You may be seated. Our first witness is Ronald Rove, Jr. Mr. Rove is currently the acting director of the United States Secret Service. Prior to this role, Acting Director Rove was the 23rd Deputy Director of the Secret Service. He has had a distinguished 25-year career in the Secret Service, from coordinating major security operations to collaborating with other government and law enforcement agencies. Additionally, he has served as the Chief of Staff to the Director, as Deputy Assistant Director for the Office of Protective Operations, and as Deputy Assistant Director for the Office of Intergovernmental and Legislative Affairs. Mr. Director, thank you for appearing before this committee today. You are now recognized for your opening statement.
Good morning, Chairman Peters, Chairman Durbin, Ranking Member Paul, Ranking Member Graham, and distinguished members of the committees. Thank you for the opportunity to appear before you today. A critical part of the Secret Service mission is protecting our nation's current and former government leaders. The attempted assassination of former President Donald J. Trump on Saturday, July 13th, 2024 in Butler, Pennsylvania, was a failure on multiple levels. I join you and all Americans in condemning the horrific assault on former President Trump, Corey Comparator, James Copenhaver, and David Dutch. And I extend my deepest sympathies to the Comparator family and my sincere wishes for Mr. Copenhaver and Mr. Dutch's continued recovery. Before I begin, though, I want to commend the heroic actions of the men and women of the United States Secret Service on July 13th. Our special agents shielded the former president with their bodies while shots were still being fired, selflessly, willing to make the ultimate sacrifice without hesitation. I am extremely proud of these actions and those taken by the counter-sniper team to neutralize the threat that prevented further loss of life. And I applaud the actions of our tactical teams that responded so quickly. I would also like to express my gratitude to our federal, state. I've heard your calls for accountability, and I take them very seriously. And given the magnitude of this failure, the Secret Service's Office of Professional Responsibility is reviewing the actions and decision-making of Secret Service personnel in the lead-up to and on the day of the attack. If this investigation reveals that Secret Service employees violated agency protocols, those employees will be held accountable to our disciplinary process. With respect to congressional investigations and requests for information, I instructed my staff to provide full cooperation and respond expeditiously on a continuing basis to ensure you have the information you need to conduct your critical oversight. In my testimony before you today, I will provide details on the Secret Service's advanced security planning for the Butler Farm Show site. Facts as we know them regarding the incident itself, no.
All right, so, you pretty much that's what he continues along those lines for the rest of the hearing, right? When the congressmen start questioning him, pretty much says it was a communication failure, a major communications failure, and security failure, obviously, right? We've seen reports that these Secret Service agents saw the shooter. They were texting each other, saying, "Hey, there's this kid out here in the building," and it was just really odd, right? Like they weren't acting like it was an urgent matter, and so they looked really bad, right? Like really bad at their job, and that's what allowed this kid to get on the roof. Pretty much their lack of urgency when they saw this suspicious kid, right? They should have acted immediately. As soon as they saw him, they should have apprehended him and, searched him and everything. And they were just kind of like, let's just let him be. Just keep an eye out on him. And the fact that he was able to get the gun up there, of course, it's going to give way to conspiracy theories because it just seems so unbelievable that the Secret Service would allow this to happen. But I do believe that's exactly what took place. I think it was just an absolute crap job, literally at doing their job. I don't think they ever imagined something like this would actually take place. But America does have a history with assassination attempts on public figures, so it's not like it's never happened, right? But anyways, I do want you to listen to the what the FBI director has to say, because he does have some information on some social media stuff they found that might be posed from crooks. So let me go ahead and just fast forward to him here, and let's go ahead and take a listen.
FBI, where he's responsible for the management of all FBI personnel, budget, administration, as well as infrastructure. Mr. Bape, thank you for appearing before the committee here today. You are recognized for your opening remarks.
Thank you, sir. Good morning, Chairman Peters and Durbin, ranking members Paul and Graham, and distinguished members of the committee. It is a privilege to appear before you today to discuss the FBI's investigation of the attempted assassination of former President Trump on July 13th in Butler, Pennsylvania. Before going further, I want to again offer my and our condolences to the victims of this heinous attack, to the family and loved ones of heroic firefighter and father Corey Comparator, to Mr. Dutch, to Mr. Koppenhaber, who continue to recover, and to former President Trump, who was also struck by a bullet fired from the shooter's rifle. Our thoughts and prayers are with each of them and their families and loved ones. Within minutes of the attack, the FBI field office in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, received notification of the assassination attempt and responded to the scene immediately with a surge of resources, quickly moving forward on the investigation. From the outset, the FBI has been investigating this attack as an assassination attempt and an act of domestic terrorism. Our team continues to conduct a full, thorough, and objective investigation, and will continue to follow all leads and avenues of investigation to logical conclusion, leaving no stone unturned. While it's not typical to provide details of an ongoing investigation, this, as we all know, is an extraordinarily tragic set of circumstances of the utmost national importance, making it essential to inform the American public and Congress what is known right now with full transparency. The investigation remains focused, of course, on determining motive, identifying any potential co-conspirators or others with knowledge of the attack, and building out a timeline of shooter Thomas Crook's actions in advance of and during the attack. Thus far, though absolutely nothing has been ruled out, the investigation has not identified a motive, nor any co-conspirators or others with advanced knowledge. To date, the FBI team has conducted more than 460 interviews, executed search warrants, including at the shooter's residence, and seized electronic media to include phones, laptops, hard drives, and thumb drives. Legal process has been issued to dozens of companies, and we've received more than 2,000 tips from the public. The full resources of the FBI have been brought to bear in furtherance of the investigation. Agents, analysts, professional staff, experts. I've personally visited the site of this horrific attack and seen firsthand the work of FBI Pittsburgh and our partners on the front line, and want to thank all involved for their ongoing and tireless efforts to get the answers that we need and to deliver justice. Specialized resources deployed included evidence response teams, victim services specialists, laboratory and operational technology division resources to process physical and digital evidence, a shooting reconstruction team. Additionally, our explosive experts have analyzed the 3 IEDs recovered, 2 from the shooter's vehicle, 1 from the family residence. And our behavioral analysis unit, importantly, is helping to build a profile of the shooter to include his mental state. Next, I want to provide a brief highlighted overview of the timeline that has been.
Okay, so it's pretty obvious there, according to what this, this FBI agent or official is saying, they're doing a pretty thorough investigation. He said they've interviewed over, 400 people, and they're, investigating to see if there were co-conspirators or other people that might have more information. Of course, he mentioned the mental state of the shooter. What do you need to investigate? Obviously, he's not, anybody that's looking to murder somebody else is not in a good mental state, right? They're being, they have demons in their head that are leading them to these kind of actions, right? So these are demonic spirits, right, that lead people to these thoughts, to these rationale, to carry out these things, right? And so, but again, look, you have the Republicans, right, or the hardcore like MAGA Trump supporters. They would love to hear these officials come and say, yes, this was a plot. This guy was a liberal. He was, Kamala Joe Biden supporter, and Joe. He got MK Ultra'd into carrying out this operation, and it was the CIA or something like that. Like Joe Biden ordered this hit. That's not going to happen, right? And the left would probably love to hear that this guy was a Trump supporter that just became disenchanted with him. That he was a hardcore Republican, and he hated Trump, and that's why he was out to kill him, right? So you have these two extremes that they're not going to believe what if the official story if it's contrary to what they want to believe, right? And that just shows you the current state of the American politics, right? Neither side is going to believe the other. So, as an observer, or if you try to be an impartial observer, just have to base yourself on, the history of these things and what we do see, right? These videos, you have to take information from both sides, from the official statements, from these organizations like the FBI and the Secret Service, and sort of come to your own judgment here. Again, my personal belief is that, this guy obviously did not like Trump, and I think he probably acted out alone. I think he was, he had demons in his head telling him to do these things, and he thought he could kill him there. I think that the Secret Service was absolutely inept at their job that day. They pretty much let their guard down because they didn't think something like this could happen in the US, even though there's a history for it. And the worst thing possible happened, right? Obviously, this, is going to have and is having huge political ramifications as the temperature has risen now. And the elections are coming up here in a couple of months in November. So either way, I think both sides are going to deny the election results. And it's going to be chaotic, right? It's going to be chaotic. And nothing is going to change either side's mind here, right? But let's go ahead and continue with what this FBI agent official is saying here.
Established to date through witness interviews and other information. Again, this is our understanding at present and is subject to change and further refinement as more facts are collected. On July 3rd, the rally in Butler, Pennsylvania was announced. On July 6th, the shooter registered to attend the rally and performed a search for, quote, how far was Oswald from Kennedy? On July 7th, the shooter traveled from his home to the Butler Farm Show grounds and remained there for approximately 20 minutes. We assess this shows advanced planning and reconnaissance on his part.
Okay, so clearly he just said, Thomas Crooks, the would-be assassin here, actually, had this planned out. He was doing some searches on, the distance to get to the rally and things like that. So he is revealing something from the investigation here.
On July 12th, the shooter traveled from his home to the Clairton Sportsman Club where he practiced shooting. On the morning of July 13th, at approximately 10 a.m., the shooter returned to the farm show grounds and remained there for about 70 minutes before returning home again. At approximately 1:30 p.m., while at the residence, the shooter's father gave him a rifle for the purpose he believed of going back to the sportsman club. About 25 minutes later, the shooter purchased ammunition.
Oh, wow. So the rifle he used was actually his dad's. His dad actually gave it to him thinking he was going to a shooting range. Little did he know, as best as we know, he was actually going to attempt to assassinate the former President Donald Trump. Pretty crazy there. And I'm sure they're interrogating and questioning the family of the shooter as well. Of course, I can already hear people saying, oh, his dad probably was part of the conspiracy. He wanted Donald Trump assassinated. Anyways, let's continue here.
While en route to the Butler Farm Show grounds. The subject then arrived at the scene, was moving around the farm show grounds close to the American Glass Research AGR building from which he ultimately committed the attack. Shortly thereafter, at approximately 3:51 p.m., the shooter flew a drone approximately 200 yards from the farm show grounds for about 11 minutes. The drone and controller were later found in the subject's car. Analysis has not revealed any photos or video taken by the drone, but we can confirm that he was live streaming at the time and would have been able to view it on his controller. The first reported sighting the shooter by local law enforcement was at approximately 4:26 p.m. At approximately 5:10 p.m., the shooter was again identified.
Okay, so he pretty much just confirmed that, the kid was using a drone to survey the area. They didn't find any stored pictures or video, but it sounds like he was just using it for live feedback on the area, right? Because there was questions about this drone. People were talking about that, conspiracy theories and whatnot, but he's confirming a drone was used.
By local law enforcement as a suspicious person around the AGR building. And at approximately 5:14 p.m., a local SWAT operator took a photo of the shooter. At about 5:32 p.m., local SWAT observed the shooter next to the AGR building using his phone, browsing news sites, and with a rangefinder. At approximately 5:38 p.m., the photo of the shooter taken earlier was sent to local SWAT operators in a text message group. Subsequently, approximately 25 minutes prior to the shooting, the U.S. Secret Service command post was notified of a suspicious person. Officers lost sight of the subject from approximately 6:02 p.m. to 6:08 p.m., but continued to communicate with each other in an attempt to locate him. Recently discovered video from a local business shows the shooter pulling himself up onto the AGR building rooftop at approximately 6:06 p.m. And at approximately 6:08 p.m., the subject was observed on the roof by local law enforcement. At approximately 6:11 p.m., a local police officer was lifted to the roof by another officer, saw the shooter, and radioed that he was armed with, quote, a long gun. Within approximately the next 30 seconds, the shots were fired.
All right, so it sounds like these Secret Service agents, the SWAT team there, they had literally no urgency. They had no urgency. Based on what this FBI official is saying, right, the guy literally showed up with a drone, was surveying the area. They saw him and took pictures of him texting on his phone. He had a rangefinder, right, to sort of measure the distance of the shot he was going to take. And the whole time they're kind of just texting each other with no urgency, right? They're literally sending text messages like, hey, there's this kid walking around, keep an eye on him. When they should have immediately, right when they saw him, they should have just, made a call or gone themselves to apprehend him, interrogate him, search him, and remove him from the premises, right? So they were really laxed. They had no urgency at all. And, by the time those two men saw him on the roof and peeked over and saw him, it was too late. He turned around and took the shot. So, of course, if you're conspiracy minded, you're looking at this and you're like, what? Like, no way the Secret Service and, the SWAT team and all of these officials would be so relaxed, right? When a former president is speaking to not do anything about this suspicious character there lingering around. And again, when these type of things happen, usually that is the case, right? The security is not on point. Everything goes wrong, and it sounds like that is exactly what happened. Again, the head of the Secret Service already admitted it was a catastrophic, failure on all levels, right? Everybody was inept. It's like literally being, security at a store, and you see a guy walked in with a ski mask, and you're like, oh, we'll just give him the benefit of the doubt. He's probably just, he probably likes just wearing ski masks. There's nothing suspicious about that. And then, you keep your eye on him, and you see him walking around the aisles, like putting stuff down his shirt, and still, you're like, oh, that doesn't mean he's going to rob anything. He probably just likes to carry what he's going to buy inside of his shirt. And then still you see him starting to walk towards the exit, and you're like, oh, he's probably just, looking at something. He'll go to the register to pay for those things, right? It's like you're not thinking what the obvious conclusion would be, right? That this guy's actually going to rob the store. And so it looks like that's what happened here. Everything pointed to, hey, this guy is an idiot. He's probably going to attempt to assassinate the president. Even then, we're talking about a former president, right? Like, this is already suspicious. Normally, you can't even get to these guys up close without, having somebody step in front and, questioning you as to what you're doing here. At most events or anywhere that, former presidents go. So, I'm guessing that since it was a Trump rally, maybe they were all like, hey, everybody here supports Trump. Of course, no assassination attempt is going to take place today. Let's just keep an eye on this guy. These, Secret Service agents and everybody there, the SWAT teams, everyone there was really irresponsible, and it led to this catastrophic occurrence here, right? So let's go ahead and listen a little bit more here, because this is the most interesting part is what, the FBI official is revealing here about the ongoing investigation.
The evidence recovery team found 8 shell casings at the scene next to the shooter's body. We believe the subject, the shooter, fired 8 rounds. While the investigation has not determined motive, the investigative team continues to review information from legal returns, including online and social media accounts. Something just very recently uncovered that I want to share is a social media account which is believed to be associated with the shooter in about the 2019-2020 timeframe. There were over 700 comments.
Okay, now this is a part I want you to listen to, right? And I when the assassination attempt happened, I posted something on X, right, on Twitter, which is sort of related to what this FBI official is going to reveal here as to the potential motive or reasoning behind the would-be assassin's actions, right? So right now he said they found social media posts from around 2019, 2020, over 700 of them, and he's going to reveal a little bit as to what they were related to here. So listen closely here.
Posted from this account. Some of these comments, if ultimately attributable to the shooter, appear to reflect anti-Semitic and anti-immigration themes, to espouse political violence, and are described as extreme in nature.
Okay, so he said some of these posts were anti-Semitic and anti-immigration, right? And they were calling for violence, right? So this kid was anti-Semitic, which means, like he hated the Jews and, immigrants essentially, and was calling for violence against them. Now, we don't know, if this guy was like a Hitler type of figure, right? Or like he had that deep hatred or that type of hatred for Jews and immigrants. Now, there's other reports that he was a registered Republican, right? Now, not all Republicans are with Donald Trump, right? The MAGA base likes to call them rhinos, right? Republican in name only. But, concerning the immigration, I don't see how he would disagree with Trump there, right? And Trump is pretty strong on immigration. He wants to, create the wall, essentially deport the illegal immigrants, millions of them, and he said he's going to do that. So I don't see how this would-be assassin would be angry at Trump over that. But Trump is a strong supporter of Israel, and if this kid was anti-Semitic and he hated the Jews, this could have led him to try and carry out this assassination on Trump. Now, look at what I posted, right? This was on July 14th. Now, look here. I shared a post from Justin Theory. It says, video of the shooter crawling on the roof and taking shots, Thomas Matthew Crooks, right? And I said, some people are making a connection because I saw somebody else talking about this and it caught my eye, since there were reports that this guy was a registered Republican, saying the shooter, who apparently was a registered Republican, wearing a pro-gun shirt, which is the shirt he was wearing, right, could be part of the audience of Nick Fuentes, who has ranted about Trump being controlled by Jews. This is all speculation, of course, right? So this guy literally is sort of confirming now. Right now, he said he said this is social media posts they believe belong to this kid. Now again, it doesn't matter, what the rationale was. This is all demonic in nature, right? All of these mass shootings, assassination attempts, all of this, it's all satanic in nature, right? As a matter of fact, politics is a work of Satan. He's in control of politics, of the world governments. That's why, according to the Bible, God will do away with all of these world governments, and he will purge the earth of these corrupt governments, right? But these ideologies, these rationales, they are demonic in nature, and they seep into the minds of the people, and they lead them to carry out these assassinations, much like the assassination of Abraham Lincoln, right? I forgot what the assassin's name was, Wilkes Booth or something like that, who shot Lincoln in the head and, jumped from the balcony and then screamed in Latin, "Thus to tyrants," right? I think, this is just speculation. This kid was anti-Semitic and he hated the Jews, much like, Nick Fuentes criticizes Trump about being controlled by the Jews. This could have been his rationale or his motive to try, or his disenchantment with Trump possibly, to try and take him out, right? Who knows what this kid was thinking, but it's pretty interesting that this was revealed at the hearing here.
While the investigative team is still working to verify this account to determine if it did in fact belong to the shooter, we believe it important to share and note it today, particularly given the general absence of other information to date from social media and other sources of information that reflect on the shooter's potential motive and mindset. These are the facts, in part, that the investigation has revealed to date. While the shooter is dead, our work is very much ongoing and urgent. Thank you, and I look forward to answering any and all questions.
Thank you, Mr. Abate. We'll now proceed.
Anyways, you can go watch the rest of the hearing there. Very interesting. We don't get much more information on that. Essentially, the congressmen start interrogating the other guy, the head of the Secret Service, as to, they're calling for heads to roll. They want people to be fired, which it's not going to bring any answers, right? They just need this investigation, allow the investigation to go through. But even then, once, it doesn't matter what they come out with, both sides, Republicans and Democrats, they're going to believe what they want to believe. What we do know is that things have not been the same for a while, and this is just another event that has added fuel to the fire, right? Again, the Secret Service head there, the other guy, the guy we saw at the beginning of the video there, says he's lost sleep over this, seeing how terrible the security was and how they allowed all of these things to take place. Apparently they're going to reorganize the Secret Service. Mystery remains over how the rifle got onto the roof. They're saying, he looks like he carried it in his backpack. Essentially, it seems like these Secret Service agents were just blind, or they refused to believe that this kid was going to attempt to assassinate Donald Trump, because it is pretty unbelievable, right? Again, these things are only supposed to happen in third world countries. But anyways, it doesn't matter, guys. The die has been cast, right? Like Caesar said, when essentially, the Civil War broke out in ancient Rome. There's no turning back, and if Donald Trump doesn't win in November, they're not going to accept the results. They didn't accept the previous ones, much more these ones. So it's just gonna be chaotic. It will lead to civil unrest now. So pretty much it's a win-win for Trump. Like he has to win according to him and his base. And I think the Democrats feel the same way. Now, just remember this, just like I said, just as much as people love Donald Trump and he's created this following, right? Where, to a point where Donald Trump said he could shoot somebody and people would still vote for him. That's true. That's how people feel about him. But people hate him just as much. And I think this kid he, in his own rationale, he was led up to that conclusion that he hated Trump for whatever reasons. I believe it might have something to do with his anti-Semitism, the shooters. And I wouldn't be surprised if another assassination attempt is carried out. In my belief, I think it looks like things are shaping up for a Trump victory. But you never know. Things are pretty crazy right now. Anyways, I just wanted to cover that, guys. Pretty long video here. I'll cover more. I'll release more videos on everything going on with the election as it leads up to, November, because it's consequential. It's really important. And again, we have to look at this through a spiritual matter. And, I'll get into that a little bit more on other videos. I've talked on that previously. But let's stay watchful here, right? And let me know your thoughts down below in the comments. If you agree or disagree, it doesn't matter. If you believe the conspiracy theories, if you support Trump or you're a Democrat or you think Trump faked, the assassination or something like that, that's fine, right? You have your own opinions. But thank you for tuning in, and remember, the truth is stranger than fiction. God bless you all, and have a wonderful day.